What's up everyone, Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have yet another album review for you. And this one's kind of like a added bonus because I think curiosity kind of got the better of me with this one, just because I've seen this band's videos. I have always wondered about this band in terms of what the hell they're doing, so I finally decided to sit down and listen to their new album, and I think I'm just as confused as I was when I started it. And yeah, we're just gonna go into this. We're gonna go over the newest album from Tallah, The Generation of Danger. This also comes out on the 18th of November on Earache Records. This band formed in Pennsylvania in 2017. This is their second full length overall. They have 2 EPs, and part of the reason why I know about this band is because their drummer, Max Portnoy, is the son of none other than the legendary former drummer of Dream Theater, Mike Portnoy, and Max is a pretty badass fucking drummer. But the other reason why I know this band is because there's been a bit of a nu metal resurgence, and this band is definitely in the mix here. I think they describe themselves as nu-core, or at least people describe them as nu-core, because there are definitely elements of deathcore, metalcore, hardcore, as well as nu metal on here, and it's pretty fucking crazy. Like, it's legit a really fucking nuts album. I almost said they were from Iowa, because that would make sense, because this album is essentially kind of the modern version of Iowa in terms of Slipknot's Iowa, because this band 100% listens to Slipknot. There's no fucking way they don't. As much as this album takes from a lot of different camps, Slipknot has to be one of the main ones in terms of their biggest nu metal influence, because they play a very extreme style of nu metal, and in terms of extreme nu metal albums, or just in terms of ones that are notably heavier than every other nu metal album, I think Iowa's kind of the fucking benchmark, so I kind of get it. But this also, again, has elements of bands like Code Orange or Knocked Loose. This band sounds like Knocked Loose if they were like locked in a fucking basement in a cage and pretty much raised on nothing but a diet of bath salts and nu metal music videos. This is absolutely batshit crazy, and it's just a fucking barrage of insanity. Like, there's a good chunk of this where I had to go back and listen to it just to see if I heard something in there that kind of quantified as like a riff or a chord or anything, because this also takes heavily from a lot of noise. And you get that right away with the opening track, Mud Castle, which has just noise and like weird ambience. There's like a slow building sort of tension to it. There's screams in the background. It's like listening to fucking Slipknot while playing Silent Hill. And then it slowly builds to this just big, nasty breakdown, and admittedly the production here is pretty damn good. Like, it's a very raw sound. The guitars have this ultra chunky, just kind of ugly sound to them, and the drums are exceptionally fucking aggressive on here. But that is essentially just the intro. Like, it's an opening track. It's not really an intro because there is actually a song in there. It just starts off noisy. Middle part is a frantic freak out of a breakdown, and then it kind of ends noisy into the next track, The Hard Reset, which, here we go. Man, this is just blistering insanity, very aggressive, very much, again, in that vein of Slipknot in terms of like the very driving rhythms, the very percussive riffing. In fact, most of the riffing on here is essentially just brutal chugging and just dissonant squeals and atonal fucking ambience everywhere. It's like listening to someone just chug on a guitar while like several alarm clocks are going off in the fucking room at the same time. And just in case that wasn't enough noise for you, there is a fucking DJ on here doing all sorts of, well, very Sid Wilson-esque sort of DJing, like, you know, very ugly scratches, lots of twisted samples sort of peppered in. It just makes the music more chaotic and more disjointed and strange, and, well, we haven't even got down to the vocals. The vocals are probably my main issue, but also probably one of the main things about this that really makes it very nu metal centric. The frontman, Justin Bonnets, is flat out losing his fucking mind on every track. It is such a frantic, rapid-fire delivery, alternating between rap vocals, guttural roars, high-pitched screams, fucking manic, twisted laughter. It is a constant barrage of all those things, and occasionally you get some tuneful singing, but most of the time it's just the sound of a dude losing his fucking mind. Now again, that was kind of my initial appeal to Slipknot. Like, Corey sounded like he was just having a fucking fit. I mean, he kind of was. But this is so constant, like this is just a non-stop barrage of vocals that it's kind of hard to keep up with. And the vocal pitches and different styles that this dude is using, it can get just to be too fucking much because, again, like there's not a lot of space for riffs to breathe or anything like that. In fact, most of the riffs are kind of overshadowed by this, again, frequent din of vocals. Now, there are moments where they kind of like bring it all together and deliver a hook and still manage to retain their immensely insane sound, like Shaken, Not Stirred, which it kind of does sound like the dude's being shaken violently while singing, but they deliver some more melodic hooks on there and they still maintain the whole like chaotic nature of the music. Like there's still the samples, there's still the squealing guitars, but the breakdowns feel a little bit more pronounced. The riffs actually seem to carry more of a melody to them. And they actually managed to deliver some like vocal hooks that kind of cut through all of the insanity and whimpering and screaming and crying and growling and all the other things that are going on in this album. And when it comes down to the cleaner vocals on here, like there are again like multiple styles of it because this guy is just kind of going off, and you know, it's kind of a stream of consciousness thing, I think. Like, I don't know if the band necessarily knew where he was going to go because these just feel very chaotic and kind of unplanned, but at the same time they do kind of work with the chaotic nature of the music. Maybe the music's more stream of conscious too. But when it comes down to like the main clean vocal, it kind of sounds like Chester Bennington a little bit from Linkin Park. Like, he can actually carry a tune. Like, this dude actually has some really good vocal skills other than just screaming and fucking yelling. Like, this sounds like a teenager losing his shit in his room and just destroying everything because something didn't go his way. I get it. I was a teenager once. I threw my fucking fits. I kicked shit. I punched shit. Teenagers are dicks. That's still true. But again, within that, there are some cool vocal hooks generated amongst all this ultra heavy, super aggressive music. Like the song Dicker's Done, which I don't know what the backstory to that is. I don't know. I initially looked at it and I thought it said Dicker Down. I was like, whoa. I mean, that'd still be kind of hilarious, but whoa. But maybe there's some backstory to it. But either way, that song might be one of the most cohesive ones on here. And I'd say like cohesive in the sense that there are more distinct riffs, there are more distinct melodies to it. Like, you can actually pick this apart from the chaos that's just kind of all over it. It feels more structured to be more memorable, and not memorable just for being like absolute fucking batshit crazy, but memorable because there are some really cool hooks. Like, the vocal flips are a little bit more planned, I would say. Like, I don't know, they just seem like they kind of gel more naturally versus the, again, more just apeshit fucking screaming. And there's some really good melodic guitar parts on there. I want to say there's even a lead on that one. I know there was at least one lead on here that was very shreddy, and this one seems like it takes its cues more from the core side versus the nu metal side. Like, you know, the DJ is still doing stuff, and it does have some very Slipknot-ish sort of breakdowns on it, but for the most part, like, it feels like there's some legit metalcore, like, melody in there, like, you know, Kill Switch Engage, like that sort of thing. Albeit maybe like a little bit more deathcore-ish version of them, but again, melody. And the chorus starts off really well. Like, it was like, oh wow, this is gonna be, you know, maybe the kind of single-ish song. And then it kind of just falls apart, which was kind of an issue for me on here because it seems like whenever they would approach a hook, like, they could sense it getting more melodic, they could sense it getting more accessible, and like, fuck that, man. This is about being weird, and they kind of just let the hook kind of fall apart. The vocals sort of descend into that crazy, whimpering, kind of muttered nonsense that you heard all throughout a lot of nu metal in the late 90s and early 2000s, and it kind of loses it right there, but I think the song overall is pretty solid. And it still does what I think most people wanted from this album, or at least their fans. It shifts between extremes really well. And this band likes to shift between extremes throughout this entire thing. A good example of this is the kind of out of place but strangely interesting epic bridge that is on Shaken, Not Stirred. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, it shifts to more clean vocals, like more straightforward sung vocals, and then you have harmonies behind it, like vocal harmonies, and it just kind of gets very epic and soaring for just a moment. it led into that moment very strangely. Like, it's, you know, a flat out nu metal song. Like, I think he's rapping about something. I don't know. It's happening so quick. It's kind of hard to pick up on what he says. But then it goes into a nasty breakdown that turns into like a flat out slam breakdown. And there are giant fucking slams on this. The song Telescope has a huge one. Stomping Ground is another fucking massive one. And these are like more along the lines of like deathcore and brutal death metal, honestly. And the vocals match up there. Like, he can get down fucking low and do pig growls and all sorts of shit. But most of the time it was the vocals that kind of took me out because it's just too much. Like, it is a constant barrage of like quick rapped vocals, shrieks and growls. Like, again, the manic laughter, like, it's constant. It never fucking takes a break. I want to say the only time it really took a break was the last track, How Long, where it does sort of, you know, start off a little bit softer. Like, there's acoustic melody, there's this actual kind of pleasant like bass melody underneath, and it kind of reminded me of the end of Volume 3, Subliminal Verses, with Danger Keep Away being this more soft, subdued song. Builds up with clean vocals, and you're like, oh, this is going to be like a kind of a quiet ending. And then it just kind of breaks out into a rap session with, you know, like a hip-hop rhythm. And then it builds into this giant sing-along, and it's honestly one of the most melodic moments on there, but it kind of ends on this very strange whimper, and then they kind of repeat that last melody. But honestly, that's one of the few moments on here where it actually took the foot off the gas pedal for a minute, because a lot of this is just going. And as far as like doing like, I guess, a retro nu metal thing, it doesn't sound like it's just them like aping Korn or like Cold Chamber. Like, it's not the basic level nu metal. It's definitely incorporated with other elements. It's very extreme, it's very intense, it's actually pretty fucking brutal at times. But there's so much going on in here, and not all of it is good. And this is kind of a long listen, it's almost an hour, but there are songs in here that just don't do anything other than confuse me and sometimes irritate the fuck out of me. Like the longest track, Wendrid. I don't know what that is, but I know it starts off with high-pitched, ear-bleeding noise behind the breakdown, and it's just fucking irritating. Like, I can't imagine that coming on in the car going, oh, I'm gonna turn that up. Like, no, I'm gonna turn that off. It's this high-pitched, shrill noise that they just threw in there just to fuck with people, I assume. But the song itself sounds like a collection of like 4 or 5 shorter songs. Like, in terms of the flow of it, it's just fucking weird. Like, it goes from, you know, hardcore breakdowns, dude's rapping, to all of a sudden he's crooning over weird samples, to a different kind of hardcore breakdown, to a fast thrashy section. Like, there's nothing that really brings the parts together. Like, there's a couple of repeated melodies in there, but it doesn't gel. And the song of Nothing is essentially a short song sandwiched between a long outro and a long intro. Like, there's this long, weird build-up, kind of like the beginning of this album, to a short song that actually has some cool spots in it, but then it just kind of stops after a while, and you have this long outro. I think this band was maybe a little too obsessed with like noise and ambience and making the sound as, you know, just unsettling as possible, but they forgot to make it like engaging on a musical level, other than, you know, like, wow, this is just fucking batshit crazy. There was part of me going into reviewing this that was thinking, man, am I possibly too old to review this? But at the same time, I was like, nah, they played fucking metalcore, deathcore, and nu metal combined, and I was around and young for all of those genres. So yeah, this really isn't anything super new, just because the components of it are kind of very old, but it is kind of its own fucking unique thing, because this is, again, just a wild, spazzy, crazy album. But I think I'll probably remember it for that more than I will the music. So overall, I'm gonna give this 2.5 stars. Like, it's okay. Like, it has moments that are really engaging, but for the most part, I was thinking, holy shit, this album needs Ritalin. Like, a fucking lot of it. For all the grindcore and crazy shit that I listen to, somehow those bands sound more put together, but like twice as extreme. This sounds just extreme, but just chaotic. Like, it's not put together well, and I think it kind of thrives on that. And while this does remind me about, you know, how I felt like the first time I listened to Slipknot's Self-Titled or Iowa or anything like that, my tastes have kind of changed, and I like a little bit of nuance in my extremity. This is just a barrage of insanity at all times, and there's really not a moment for you to catch your breath. The moments spared to you to catch your breath in here are generally filled with chaotic noise and just twisted samples of people screaming or pigeons, because that's on there for some odd reason. You are essentially suffocated by how, like, insane this album is at all times. And while I can appreciate, you know, the overall insanity and everything that went into this, overall it just does not grab me, other than it being, again, just batshit crazy. I need some hooks every now and then, and they do tease them, and they are pretty good when they do throw them in, but they are very few and far between in how they are structured and thrown in the songs. It's just so chaotic and hard to fucking follow. I still urge you to check out this band. I mean, if you fucking loved Iowa or, you know, Slipknot's self-titled debut, if you like Knocked Loose and Code Orange, check this band out. It's fucking insane, and maybe there's something in there that you will hear that I didn't that makes you a giant fan. It wasn't there for me, but it could be there for you. You won't know until you check it out. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. There's a link down below, thrallsmetal.com, where our shop is. We will eventually load up on merch, but I think we have everything outside of extra large shirts for now. But in there's also a link to our Patreon. We also have Denver Death Fest stuff going on. We will have a pre-sale, I believe, on Black Friday, and we will be announcing the full lineup New Year's Day, I believe. And for any other questions to that, there will be a link to that down below so you can check it out. And of course, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that shit. It means the fucking world to us. This is just fucking amazing doing this. And you're the reason. You guys keep us going, and, you know, it's just been a boatload of fun. So believe me, every time I do this awkward thank you shit at the end of the videos, I fucking mean it, because you guys fucking rule, and we're gonna keep this shit rolling because it's just a fuck ton of fun. And again, you guys are one of the main reasons. So once again, thank you all so much, and we will catch you later.